Hey kids, it's Mr. Flyers here, hope you're well. Now, one of the most common questions that I've had posted in the comments since I've had the new R1300 GS is what's it like for pillion riding? What's the comfort like for your passenger? Well, today, with the help of Mrs. Flyer here, we're going to find out. Okay folks, so this is Mrs. Flyer, or Angel Keg as I know her, or Carol to her friends, and she's going to help us out with this test, of course, because you're quite an expert pillion rider on the GS, aren't you, or you're experienced?
Yes, I've been on a GS quite a bit, so I've been on this trusty steed for numerous trips, this one.
Yep.
I've also been on the GS 1250 Alaska, just under 4,000 miles, Spain and Portugal, 1250 again, 2,000 miles. Tuscany Motorcycle Tour last year, the GS 1250 again. I've also been on the back of other bikes, Canary Motorcycle Tours, other bikes that we've got, the Wing obviously.
The Japan trip.
The Japan trip.
That was a Tiger 900, wasn't it?
That was Tiger 900, yes. So you get to know what you like and what you don't like. We're all different, that's to say, but I do like the back of the GS, and that's why it's quite popular.
It's one of your favourite bikes to ride on, isn't it, in
Yes.
fact? So what our plan is today is to do the same ride on both bikes back to back. We won't do lots of filming of it, but we'll just show you that we're out on the bikes. And we'll come back here then, and we'll get Carol's summary of what the bikes are like. Fair enough with you?
Yeah.
Excellent. Before we do that, let me just show you the seats on the bike. So this is the 1200, which is exactly the same geometry as the 1250, of course. The seats are identical, and on here, I've actually got the low seat fitted. That's the standard BMW low seat. And then over on the 1300, I've now also got the low seat fitted on that as well. Obviously, that only applies to the rider and not the pillion, but just to say they are the standard seats on each bike. So I guess we should suit up properly, get out there, ride the bikes and go for it. Ready for that?
Yep.
Let's do it. Alrighty, so we're out on the road then, and to start with, we're on my trusty R1300 GS. Weather's not looking too bad today, a little bit of black clouds in the air, so we could get some rain, but otherwise relatively dry. Haven't been on this bike for ages, still got my check engine light on, but let's not worry about that. Anyway, I just wanted to do a little bit to camera while I'm riding with Mrs. Flyer on the back, just to say how it feels to me. And I have to say, number one, Carol's a pretty good pillion. I can barely tell that she's on there. She's not making any contact with me at all, which is great. And as far as the way the bike handles, yes, it feels a little bit heavier at slower speeds, but generally speaking, I can't really tell she's on there, so no problem at all. So anyway, we're going to ride a bit more, get a few miles under her belt, and we'll swap over to the 1300, have a little go on there, and then we'll go back to base and see what Carol thought of it. Okay, so wind on about an hour, and here we are. We've done a big loop, and now I'm on the R1300 GS with Mrs. Flyer once again on the back. What do I notice any different? Well, ignoring the differences between the two bikes, as this bike is just beautiful to ride. It's so smooth, it's so performant. Kind of ignoring that stuff, but just thinking about the things that relate to the pillion. A couple of things have leapt to mind already. First off, getting the bike off the side stand with Mrs. Flyer on the back. That is a bit difficult because the bike leans over a lot further than the 1200 and the 1250 did. On this non-electronic height adjusting version, it does lean over a long way on the side stand, so it's a bit of a haul to get it off the side stand. That's the first thing I noticed. Then the other thing was, when I pulled onto this road before I was recording, it's quite a fast road, there's a big gap, and I thought I'd just show Mrs. Flyer what the acceleration is like on this bike compared to the 1200. So I gave it some fair beans as we pulled away. Both bikes, by the way, are in dynamic mode when I'm recording this. And as I did so, up through second, third and fourth gear, the front wheel lifted up and I did a wheelie. Entirely unintentional. When I do a wheelie, that just means something bad's happened. So I didn't quite realise what was going on actually, but just something to be aware of. With weight on the back, it's very easy to get the front wheel off the deck. So suddenly I became a wheelie king. It was completely under control, didn't feel in any danger, and I doubt that Mrs. Flyer even noticed it. I will ask her about it later, but yeah, so that's something a bit different. But other than that, ignoring that, once again, I can't really tell she's on the back there. There's no contact between her and me. We're both completely comfortable on here. Yes, the bike feels a little bit heavier, of course, than riding solo, but there's absolutely no lack of power on this bike, and yeah, handling wise and everything else, the bike just feels lovely. Yeah, not much else to add from a rider's point of view. Riding with a Pillion on this is just absolutely fantastic, brilliant. Alrighty, we're going to do another ride round, similar route, well, probably exactly the same route. Get back to the garage, and then we'll hear the all-important verdict from Mrs. Fly. Okay, so we're fresh back from our ride on both bikes. Mrs. Fly has had a bit of a dose of each. What do you make of it? Should we start with, well, over to you, what do you think?
Well, this is my initial first ride, so I've been out on both for about 40 minutes each. So obviously a longer test run ultimately would be necessary.
And we will try and do a little tour at some point on the new bike, but
to have a definitive answer.
Okay.
However, there are some basic differences I noticed. As most of you, I'm 5'2", so my view is only based on me and how I sit on a bike.
Of course.
Okay, so the seat to begin with, the standard seat on the 1200 was softer.
Yep.
It's a bit wider. I ultimately find it a bit more comfortable than the 1300, which is tailored slightly. You can see it here, and it's contoured.
Sort of contoured, isn't it?
It's contoured slightly differently, and it's much firmer.
Yeah, I agree actually. From a rider's point of view as well, the seat on the older bike, the 1200 and the 1250, which same seat, is more comfortable for sure.
Yeah. Now, whether you can change that seat and get a softer one.
Well, of course you can. Yeah.
So it's a firmer seat.
Yep.
For me, the big key things, the grab handles, and I had to go round the block again on this, the new one, and compare it to the old one. Now, you may be able to see on the new one, here's a grab handle, I found that it was pulling my shoulders where I was holding on, and we're talking half an inch difference.
Do you want to jump on the old bike and then we can show people?
So, so when I'm on the bike and I need to hold on, I tend to hold on here.
Yep.
Yeah. So my shoulder is
in that position.
In that position.
Yeah.
And I couldn't figure it out, and that's why I went round the block again.
Yeah.
And when I'm on the new bike, because of the change in angle here.
Yeah. That's a bit more raked on the old bike, isn't it?
Yeah. That's steeper. My shoulder position from going on to there is there.
And that makes all the difference.
Which makes a lot of difference, and for me is quite painful if you're bracing yourself if you're coming to a stop.
Sure.
Not necessarily at speed. It was just more uncomfortable.
Understood.
I found.
Yeah. Okay.
So getting on and off the bike, getting on is fine for both bikes. The position on the 1300 I felt higher.
Right. What about wind blast?
Can I just say I felt a little bit more exposed.
I've been told.
Yes, he has. A little bit more exposed on the 1300 than on the 1200.
Yep.
Wind blast, didn't notice any discernible difference. I haven't had a chance to go on a motorway yet.
Yeah.
That's one of the key things.
Yeah. Did you notice the front wheel lifted up when we accelerated on
Yeah, Andy accelerated, just pulled out of a junction, accelerated away, and I thought, woo, where are we going? It was like riding a horse. So we got a little bit of lift, not what I really want as a passenger. And that's due to the power, so you do need to be mindful of that. You've got more weight on the back, front comes up.
Yeah. What else have we got to cover?
The ride, the 1300 was smoother.
Yep.
The engine was smoother. There was a bit less noise.
Yeah.
I think I thought it was a bit of a stiffer ride.
Yeah.
This is like an old pair of comfortable slippers in
what
comparison.
I would just say is both bikes are in dynamic mode, and obviously that does adjust the damping settings, but both are in dynamic for a fair comparison. Yeah. The other thing, just also something that a lot of people have asked since the Japan trip is how we got on with the Tiger. So just while we're talking about different bikes, how did you find the GS versus the Tiger as a passenger?
I thought the Tiger was fine, getting on and off. I love the look of the 900, the Tiger.
Yeah.
However, and it's unfortunately, a big no-no for me, the fork dive was horrendous.
Yeah.
Even if you're braking gently coming in, I was having to hold on both hands and brace myself. You don't get the fork dive, or not to the same extent on the GS.
Well, not at all. In
Not
fact,
at all,
on either
unless-
of them. So
yeah.
that's a definite advantage over the Tiger. Isn't it, on the
Yeah,
GS?
and of course it's a killer for your shoulders and your back.
All right, so going back to the older GSs, the 1200 and the 1250 versus the new bike, how would you summarise it? Would you say one's better than the other? Would it put you off buying the bike? What's your sort of summary?
I hate to say the jury's out at the moment until I've been out for a full day or overnight on the 1300. I prefer the old seat. I much prefer the position of the grab handles for me physically.
Yep.
Feet are much the same, getting on and off the same. Height, I'm not so keen. I'm a bit higher on there, a bit more exposed.
Right.
So the jury's out, but at the moment, I'm afraid.
So it sounds a bit marginal then, we'd say.
It
It's not a big plus, it's not a big minus.
Yeah, but it is comfort at the end of the day, and
yeah.
I really didn't like the grab handles on there. Right. They just felt smaller because the seat is a bit more contoured.
Yeah.
It felt as if it was a bit closer into my body, and it just didn't feel...
Fine. All right. So there we have it. Hope that's been of some interest to you. We will go on tour on the new bike and we'll do a little bit of an update on that. But so far, jury's out on the Pillion front. So thank you, Mrs. Flyer, for your input, and I hope that's been of some interest. Until next time, this has been the Mist and Flyers.
Cheerio.
Hey kids, we're the Mist and Flyers.